Okay, I probably should have started when we did the cabin air filter and the air cleaner. But 2011 convertible RS. We're getting ready to do differential fluid, oil change of course, but the big thing that it's here for is changing the tranny filter, which is not very fun on these. Refilling these isn't very fun at all. So we're waiting for that catalytic converter to not be hot, because there is a plug right there. I'll point at it right there, where a dipstick tube would go on different cars, that I've got to get out while we're draining. And then this is actually our fill port. And of course this cross member is going to catch some of the fluid that's draining, and it's going to come down here and it's going to make a big old mess. And you know, that's just the name of the game. It's the way this goes. So we will check back periodically during some of these steps and discuss any issues we've run into. Okay, that went very painless, as we expected, because it's so new and not rusty. But you can see, let me turn the light up a little. The first thing we did before draining it was make sure we could open the fill plug. And since we could, we went ahead and drained her. And then, you know, just used the pump and pumped some 7590 synthetic, Valvoline in this case, in until it started dripping out, and then put the plug in, just like almost every transmission and rear end for the last 100 years. So that is now full. It's something people forget. You know, you really should keep up on your gear oil. And yeah, that went very painless. There was very little build up on the magnets just from when it was built and was wearing in, because I'll guarantee that's the first time those have been changed. The car only has 55,000 miles on it, and we're getting ready to go ahead and drain the oil. We're waiting to do the transmission last because I'm gonna get burned. So okay, so we got that filled back up. That didn't take very long, and it went perfectly smooth. Okay, and just change the oil filter and the O-ring. Always change the O-ring. Inspect everything. Look, make sure there's no metal, no bronze or anything. You know, check for signs of wear on bearings. The fill for this has this teeny little hole in it, so it's really slow. So just spin this thing off and get it out of your way, because it'll take you 10 years to fill the oil through that tiny little hole. So we've got her full. We didn't make too big of a mess. Here's the oil filter housing. We just used a 1-inch socket on it, no biggie. And remember, let the O-ring do its job. You don't have to crank those things down. This thing was, the last guy did tighten it down a little bit. So getting ready to put all that back together, and hopefully the tranny is cool enough to drain now. Okay, I never want to drain something if I don't know for a fact I can fill it. Always a good thing. So we were able to successfully get that little cap off plug out, so it's not torn, you know, so we don't have to go buy another one. And it did come out. It came out hard. It's just in a bad spot, you know, up on top up there. The important part is we got it out. So if you look at, in this case we're going to look at this 4L60, you know, there is, you can see right here, that's where the dipstick tube would go. Well, on that transmission, that's where a dipstick tube would go, since this is a sealed system. They put a cap in with this plug instead. So now that I know I can do that, now we're going to drain it. So we'll go grab a socket, we'll extend this guy up, and we'll make a mess. And remember, I'm already predicting fluid's going to hit this and slide all over and run down. So we're just going to go get the big pan right quick. So we'll bring it back when it's draining. Okay, so we're slowly draining. It didn't make too big a mess, really. We will make a mess when we drop the pan, because remember, that has like a little plasticky thing up to set the level, and it's still pretty high. There's still fluid in here. This is still going to make a big mess when we drop it. So it'll be exciting. Unless I don't know. I guess I could try to put the vacuum pump in there and suck some more out. Well, we might experiment with that. That thing, that did a great job. Look how much it pulled out before we dropped the pan. You know, going through that hole. Here's where that hole is. See, that's that thing. So we just ran the tube down in there and pulled another 4 quarts out before pulling the pan. These 2 bolts aren't fun to get at, But we didn't even want to mess with trying to drop this to make it easier, because then where are we supporting the transmission and causing problems. So we haven't pulled the filter yet. We just got the pan down. And one of the things you always want to do in pretty much anything that has one is you want to look at this magnet. See this schmutz? That's the clutches wearing down, and it's normal. This looks pretty normal. I'm looking for either just a giant hairball in here, or worse, big chunks of metal. This is all real fine clutch material from the clutches and steels wearing out, which is normal. So yeah, I don't see anything in here that makes me scared or nervous. Plus, it was a perfectly fine driving car anyway. No complaints there. And then you can see there is what's actually going to be our level. When we fill this, the car will be warm and driving, you know, sitting up on the lift there. He'll go through all the gears, get it all nice and warm. And when we're between, I think it's 70 and 90 degrees on the pan, then I'll pull the plug and let it self-level. And that's how you fill it. It's not like the old days with a dipstick. So we'll probably show that process in a little bit. Right now, we're going to get all this cleaned up. Okay, and that thing just shined again. We put our 6 quarts in, right through the fill tube, popped our little cap in, and we're getting ready to drop her down and find out if I can measure tranny temperature on the driver's information center. And if I can't, we'll go ahead and hook the Autel up and measure it. And then I'm going to look it up, because I don't remember if it needs to be between 70 and 90 degrees. Yeah, I think it does. I think it's in that range, but I will look it up. Don't remember things you can look up. Okay, our coolant temperature or our transmission temperature right now is 104, so that's well within our window. We just pulled the drain plug. Nothing came out, which means we got to add a little bit more. So we're going to add a little bit until this is just dribbling. So we're going to take care of that, and then this car should be good. It already had good line pressure. Everything was working, so we're pretty happy so far. She took about another half a quart, and now you can see she's just dripping. So we'll put the plug back in. We'll put this plug back in, and this transmission is filled to factory spec. So we will come back with a closeout video shortly. And that is our 50,000 mile service on this car. Wasn't too bad. Went real smooth. Everything worked. So we changed the cabin air filter. We changed the air cleaner. Changed the engine oil and filter. We changed the rear differential fluid. And we changed the filter and did a drain and fill on the transmission. To factory spec. Even looked in all data to make sure everything was kosher. So yeah, this car is ready to go. The only downside, it's a little snowy outside. ShopDog says this was a good repair.